Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you my competitive tier list for the November 2019 format. Apologies for being out of commission the past week or so. The crush card virus really got me good. I had a massive sinus infection. I was completely out of commission. I'm over it now. You can tell I'm a little bit congested, but I think we should be back to making videos. So today we're going to be talking about competitive tier lists. This is something I do every once in a while, just to show you guys where, in my opinion, the top competitive decks are kind of stacked in terms of overall representation, overall power, and what you can expect at any tournament that is coming up that you may be attending. And speaking of which, we do have Pro Play Tour Dallas coming up on November 23rd and 24th. It's a $2,000 prize pool event as always. And if you scrub out of that, we do have our 3v3 Chaos Impact case tournament that you can enter on Sunday. So it's going to be a great weekend. And also, if you get your invite at this event, you'll be qualified for the $10,000 prize pool invitational in January. So links are in the description if you want to pre-register, and I hope to see you guys there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the tier list. So as always, we have the different tiers: tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, rogue, and everything else. We're not really going to have a lot of stuff here in the everything else category, just because it pretty much is going to encompass everything I'm not talking about on this particular list. And again, this is purely my opinion. You guys may have opinions that are different, and be sure to leave those thoughts down in the comments. So first off, let's start with Altergeist. Altergeist is actually an interesting one. I'm going to put this at tier 2. While it hasn't been having massive success and getting a ton of top cuts as of late, I still think the deck is very strong, and I think it's above the rogue tier category because it's a deck that people are definitely cognizant of because it had a lot of success last format before the October 2019 ban list. The deck is very strong. It's capable of getting top cuts, but it just hasn't been having a lot of success as of late, but it's still something you need to be mindful of. It's had pretty decent representation, especially when you look at the numbers of stuff like YCS London. So Altergeist, I can pretty confidently say, is tier 2. Now, one deck that a lot of you guys might be surprised by is actually going to be Cyber Dragon. Now, I'm going to put this down in the rogue category. So Cyber Dragon has definitely fallen from its tier 1 status when it was Cyber Dragon Orcas. Pure Cyber Dragon, like, it hasn't really been having the representation. It has not really been having the top cuts. Like, it really just hasn't been able to get there. Now, don't get me wrong, Cyber Dragon is still a very potent deck, and with our current format and how it's developed with the tier 1 decks, Cyber Dragon has a very interesting matchup against these top cuts decks, and honestly, it should be able to play fairly well, but it just hasn't been as of late, and so it's something that I think it's going to slowly go off of people's radar. The deck is still very potent, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but it's definitely a fall from grace from the Cyber Dragon Orcas variants that we're seeing so much play previously because that deck was insanely powerful. So definitely moved down a notch on the tier list, but still very powerful nonetheless. Next up, we have Infernoid, and this is going to be an interesting one. I'm actually going to put this at tier 2. Now, the reason why I'm going to say that is, think about the past success that Infernoid has had. It's been able to top multiple regionals, and then after that, it topped YCS Guadalajara, garnering a top 4 finish, and then it got a top 4 finish at Pro Play Tour Columbus, and then it got a top 4 finish at YCS London. Like, this deck has been so just able to make the top 4 finish of all these different events, even if it's just a lone deck. And it's like, I feel like I can't really call that rogue anymore when it's been able to have so much success in that degree. I mean, compared to Cyber Dragon as of late, Infernoid's been doing a lot better than that, even though there might be more Cyber Dragon in representation currently than Infernoid. But honestly, I think Infernoid's probably more deserving of tier 2 at the moment, because in a graveyard-centric format like we are currently in, having a whole deck full of DD Crows seems pretty good, and the more popular this deck gets, I think, or excuse me, the more success this deck will see, I think the more popular it's going to get. So I definitely think this is a deck that people need to start respecting, because it's going to be just more and more popular as the format progresses. Next up, we have Heroes. I'm putting Heroes in the rogue category. I mean, we have Stratos at 3 now, which is just absurd. Malicious is back at 3. But again, it's just not enough. It hard loses to Nibiru because it has no counterplay against it. It's got Super Volley in the main deck sometimes. Like, that seems pretty good. But, I mean, it's a very good deck. It's a strong aggro deck. It's got Dark Law, but I just don't feel like it does enough. It doesn't have the representation. I don't think it's got enough power or unfair aspects to it, but it's still a pretty solid deck. And honestly, you're going to see it at the top tiers of competitive play, even in just in the very early stages, but it could make a run all the way to top cut, so don't be surprised if you see it. Next up is Guru Control. Guru Control tier 2, easy. Honestly, Guru Control might be one of the strongest, if not the strongest tier 2 deck of the format. A lot of people have been hyping this deck up as of late, just with the way the format has been progressing. It's got many good control tools. It can play under There Can Be Only One very well. Guru's just a fantastic control tool in itself. You've got the Fiendus, which is an Omni Negate. Like, the deck is pretty solid. It does have its weaknesses. It's a bit slow, and it doesn't do like a lot of really unfair things relative to the rest of the format, but I mean, if we're going to put it anywhere, I'm going to go ahead and slide it up in front of Altergeist here because I think it is probably the best tier 2 deck that you can get your hands on. Speaking of tier 2 deck, it looks like we're just going to keep going. True Draco. Honestly, True Draco is still in a very good position. Also plays well under There Can Be Only One. Draco and Subterror Guru, Guru Control kind of play in similar ways, but just have different strengths and weaknesses of their own. But frankly, Draco is still one of those decks that can make a run. It's got representation backing it too. It's got a lot of good things going for it. Like, Draco's just like the solid tier 2 deck, and it just continues to do well. Even if it's not like, you know, crazy well, it's still pretty much a pretty solid pickup overall. Now, Mech Knights, pure Mech Knights specifically, shoutouts to Shannon Long, because I'm going to go ahead and just pretty much put that out here. That's why I put that on this list. I'm going to put it in the rogue category, but if anything, this man has put Mech Knights on the map because, oh my god, Mech Knight, that pure Mech Knight deck is just insane, and I think a lot of people have been interested in playing this deck just after seeing Shannon just pilot it with such proficiency. The deck is crazy. Again, it's rogue at best, but I mean, the man's been winning regionals. He's been able to make top cut at both Konami and like Pro Play Tour events. Like, I mean, it's scary. Like, the deck can be scary if you aren't already prepared to play against it. So just be mindful that deck is on the loose. Following that up, though, Magical Musketeers. This is another pretty solid rogue pick. We saw Joshua Osters play this at YCS London, going at a 9-2 bubble finish. So we had the record for top cut. He just barely missed out on it. Magical Musketeers going second. I mean, Max is a card that can allow you just to go plus $1,000,000, and it's a very solid option right now when you look at kind of how it's positioned in the format. The cards are all very good. It's just a very good surprise option, and for players who don't know how to play against it, the deck can be very devastating. Next up, we have Pendulum. I'm going to go ahead and put Pendulum in tier 2. This is like Pendulum Magician plus Endymion or any sort of hybrid. Pendulum's just very good. Like, it's weird because it's like it hasn't been doing that well in terms of top cut garnering, but in terms of representation, it has plenty of fans. And honestly, the deck does some unfair things that allow it to compete with the top contenders, and I think it's still a deck you definitely need to respect because it is very powerful, very explosive, and in the right hands is definitely going to make it to the top cut of any tournament. Now, Orcas, definitively tier 1, honestly might be the best deck of the format, both in terms of pure representation as well as power. I mean, this deck is just crazy. Dingirsu is a powerhouse of a card. This deck can do so many good things and really unfair things, honestly. Having Orchestrated Babel to be able to play on your opponent's turn, the amount of advantage this deck can generate. It's funny, too, because you think a deck like this with so many weaknesses wouldn't be this powerful, but it's one of, if not the best deck of the format. So without a doubt, Orcas is tier 1. Now, Gren Maju's an interesting one because some people are going to think, okay, this deck is still rogue, right? Honestly, I'm putting it at tier 2 now because this deck, in my opinion, has not only garnered enough top cut slots to earn the right to be in tier 2, but there's a lot of people playing this deck. This deck is just so cool because you just get to play a lot of really good Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and because of the way the meta is shaped up, you can just go ahead and just blow your opponent out by breaking their board, blinding second, and then just summoning a Gren Maju and killing your opponent. Like, it's really that simple, and we've seen it just get multiple top cut slots. It's been able to win YCSs. Like, I don't think this deck is a joke anymore, and a lot of people may still put it in the rogue tier, but honestly, I still think this is a deck that deserves tier 2, and I think you need to give this deck some respect because if you're not ready, this deck is going to absolutely obliterate you. Next up is going to be the Cypher Thunder Dragon deck. This is going to be tier 1. This is Herman Hansen's list, if you guys remember from YCS London. It's like Danger Thunder Dragon, but it's a new take on it, playing Starly's Dragon Cypher. That's why I used it to represent it, because we obviously are going to have Thunder Dragon on here as well in its pure form. But combo Danger Thunder Dragon, or I guess combo Thunder compared to like pure Thunder, is it's a very scary deck. I mean, you can assemble some crazy boards while also being able to protect yourself from Nibiru. Like, the deck is real. In YCS Lima, there was a team that managed to get like all the way to top 4 piloting this deck. I think they got 3rd place with it. Like, the deck is very, very good. I would not underestimate it. It's still like relatively unknown because not a lot of people have been picking up on it, but I think this deck is a real threat and definitely do not underestimate it. Mystic Mindburn, shoutouts to Jeff. It's got to go to Rogue, though. I mean, hasn't really been seeing too much play, but still a very scary card if you're not prepared to have main deck spell and trap removal in your deck. It's still very good. I mean, a lot of people are playing Cosmic Cyclone now just because it's pretty solid against the rest of the format, but Mystic Mind is still scary, and you definitely need to be mindful of it. And there were some that did make day 2 at YCS London, so, you know, shoutouts to you guys. Salamangreat, gonna go into tier 1, obviously. I mean, just based on representation and power, the deck is just very good. It's just the jack of all trades deck of the format. Doesn't excel in any particular area, but it just does a lot of really good things. It's very good at making Abyss Dweller, I should say that. So definitely keep that in mind, that if you want to just kind of play a little anti-meta, Salamangreat might be the deck for you. Now, Sky Striker is an interesting one, but I'm going to go ahead and put Sky Striker in tier 1. Yeah, Sky Striker, I think if there was a tier 1.5 on this list, I'd probably put Striker there, but it won YCS London, but it didn't only win it, it also had some representation there as well. A lot of people weren't expecting it, and honestly, Striker is just going to be able to adapt to the metagame as it's starting to mold itself more concretely. Striker just has the tools to be able to deal with so many different things, even with one single Widow Anchor. Definitely do not disrespect the deck, because it's still going to be at the top tiers of competitive play. And yeah, may even win the next YCS, who knows. Now we have Pure Thunder Dragon, represented by Colossus here. Tier 1, again, I mean, Pure Thunder Dragon. I think the worst part about Thunder Dragon is that it has like a bad Orcas matchup, because Dingirsu just really doesn't care about Colossus whatsoever. But I think it's still a pretty solid pick, just because it's pretty good, just relative in how it like faces with the rest of the matchups in the meta. But Colossus is still an unfair card. The deck is very, very potent and very powerful. You can just play a multitude of different ways, but honestly, I think Colossus Colossus alone is enough to just give this deck enough legitimacy. Then we have Paleozoic. I'll put that in the rogue category. Paleo's been able to kind of like hover here and there, but I don't think it's anything too crazy at the moment. But I thought it's definitely worth mentioning that there are some people trying to experiment with Paleozoic. It did make top 8 at a Pro Play Tour, and I think it day 2'd another YCS as of late as well. But again, it's neither here nor there. Lite Orcas, I'm actually going to put in tier 2. I definitely think the last ban list hurt this deck a little bit, but it's still very powerful nonetheless. Lite's being able to make stuff like Azathoth is just completely unfair, and then you still have your Orcas combo, but with Curious being able to send your Orcas pieces. Like, the deck is crazy. People were piloting it at YCS Lima, people were piloting it at YCS London. People are still fearing the deck and respecting it heavily, but I think it's kind of in that tier 2 slot, just because I think there's enough people playing it, and it's like being in the right hands, it's good, but at the same time, I just don't think it really has that solid tier 1 status like it did before the October 2019 ban list. That is definitely without, that's without a doubt. And then last but not least, we have Dinosaurs, and I'm actually going to kind of, this is including like Shaddoll Dinosaur as well. A lot of people have been playing this deck as of late at the rogue level, and Shaddoll Dinosaur, very scary deck, a blind second deck, of course. You just kind of use Shaddoll Fusion, do unfair things, kill your opponent with double evolution pill, and it's all well and good, right? I just want to go ahead and shout out those Dino players, because they've been able to top some events or just get very close to topping, but just not there quite yet, but still a very scary deck nonetheless. And yeah, that's pretty much what our format's going to be looking like for the next month or so. Guys, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.